Welcome everyone to another First Sunday Fun Day session with HGP, the Humanists of Greater Portland. My name is Anand Atre, and it is my privilege to be your MC for today's event, which is being recorded. HGP believes strongly in freedom of speech, but the views expressed by myself, our musicians, today's speaker, HGP members, and our guests at today's meeting are not the official views of the Humanists of Greater Portland. For those who are new to humanism or HGP, humanism represents a progressive way of thinking that is informed by science, inspired by art, and motivated by compassion. A humanistic approach to life is grounded in reason and our shared humanity, making a humanistic lifestyle one that aligns with social and planetary responsibility. Humanistic values are not based on appeals to external deities. Instead, they are formed when humans use reason and reflect with empathy on our experiences, collective needs, and capacity for flourishing. Paramount among these values is the commitment to uphold the dignity of all human beings. Before we hear from this week's speaker, we're going to have one more sing-song. So Pete, Paul, and Mike. Pete, take your time. Don't want you running too much. Take your time. When you're all sorted, we'll get... So yeah, we're going to have one more sing-song. So Pete, Paul, and Mike, over to you.
Imagine me and you and me, no matter the dice, and love and hold her tight, so happy together. A dime, and you say you belong and they belong to me, and ease my mind. Imagine a world I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. And you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. And you and me, no matter how they pass the dice, and then to be the only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. Ba 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 ba. You and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be the only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. Be together. And how is the weather? So happy together. We're happy together. So happy together. Happy together.
It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. She's an actor, improviser, teacher, and self-described clown. She has extensive experience in improv teaching, directing, and performing. She has toured across the country teaching and performing at various festivals, including the Seattle Festival of Improvised Theater, the Chicago Improv Festival, the Vancouver International Improv Festival, and the Boom Chicago Comedy Festival in Amsterdam. She is the former co-artistic director of Curious Comedy in Portland, Oregon, and the former improv producer at the Philly Improv Theater. She holds a BFA in Theater Arts from the University of the Arts, and she has studied improv at Second City, Magnet Theater, and Annoyance. She has also studied physical theater and clown extensively with the Pig Iron Theater Company and the Movement Theater Studio. Her presentation today will be about how improv is a practice in connection, joy, support, and empathy. It promises to be informative, eclectic, and humanistic. So please join me in giving a big HGP welcome to Kristen Shear.
All right, the mic is on. Hello. It is I who should be thanking you. I'm very, very honored to be here to be speaking with you and meeting you today. Yeah. So we have yes. Yes, I can. Thank you. I will be over here. I appreciate that. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to get started here in a moment. We got a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to try to make a case for you that improv comedy is really a practice in empathy. So yeah, let's get those slides on the screen. Yeah. How do we and I should tell you a little bit about myself. Currently, I work for Kickstand Comedy Theater down on 10th and Hawthorne. So if anyone is looking for a place to come and see and learn local comedy, Kickstand is a nonprofit comedy theater with a mission to sort of remove the barriers for people to seeing and doing comedy, especially those who have been systematically and historically marginalized and kept from those kind of spaces. So that's our focus. We give a lot of scholarship programs, and we have the biggest affinity program in the country. And we'll be talking about that at the Global International Improv Summit that's here in Portland in just a week, which is really exciting. Yeah, so we do a lot of comedy that's all over the map. It's improv, sketch, stand up, and weird is the only other way we know to classify it. Great.
That's about it.
The biggest thing that I want to just chat with you about is laying the groundwork for making this case that improv is a practice in empathy. So I want to read from you an excerpt of a book by Stephen Nachmanovitch, and the book is called Freestyle Improvisation in Play, Improvisation in Life. And this is a big excerpt from this book, but I think it really establishes the vitalness of play and how important it is. So first, improvisation in any medium, composition, writing, painting, theater, and all creative acts are forms of play, right? So it's starting in the place of creativity and human growth in the human growth cycle, and it is one of the great primal life functions. One of the things that you learn about mammals is their need to play, right? So without play, learning and evolution are really next to impossible. Okay, play is the taproot from which original art springs. It's the raw stuff that the artist channels and organizes into all of his learning and technique. Technique itself is rooted in play because you can only acquire technique by the practice of practice, right? By persistently experimenting and playing with your tools, right? Hey, check it out. Awesome. So essentially, this is about how serious play is. So creative work, as I mentioned, is play. It is free speculation using the materials of one's chosen form. So we're still getting an echo on this. I don't know if there's a way to manage that, but yeah, so the creative mind plays with the objects that it loves. Artists, thank you, play with color. Musicians play with sound and instruments. Children play with everything that they can get their hands on, right? And in play, we manifest these fresh, interactive ways of relating to people. So this is where play connects with empathy, right? Play can fly in the face of social convention as well, because what it does is it abstracts from social hierarchies. We toss together elements that were formerly separate when we play. Our actions take on novel sequences. And to play is to free ourselves from these arbitrary restrictions and to expand our field of action. So our play fosters a richness of response and adaptive flexibility. This is the evolutionary value of play, is that it makes us flexible by reinterpreting reality and getting novelty. When we play, we keep from becoming rigid, and play enables us to rearrange our capacity and our very identity so that they can be used in unforeseen ways. In play, we get to experiment with all sorts of combinations of body forms, social forms, thought forms, images, rules. So, and those things would not be possible in a world that functions just on immediate survival. I think maybe that's more relevant than ever these days, right? If we are in this capacity where we're just trying to survive and we can't play, it's really detrimental to, to the human spirit. So play as improvisation sharpens our capacity to deal with a changing world, and it's our humanity, right? Playing in these prolific and in these various ways that we our ability to play has allowed us to expand all over the world, survive several ice ages, and to continue to reinterpret and adapt. So just to expand on this a bit, play is what allows us to abstract and reinterpret our reality. And this is the beginning of having empathy for someone else, because we can imagine a reality that is not necessarily our own. We can imagine a reality that belongs maybe not to our lived experience, but to somebody else's. So we can manifest these free interactive ways of relating to people. This is a direct quote from Nachmanovitch. And play helps us solve life's problems, right? We as human beings, we have this, quickly, I love this quote: play is our brain's favorite way of learning. Yeah, right? So I said play helps us solve these problems. And I did mention before that I am a clown. This book is by Christopher Bays, Discovering the Clown. And he's a professor of theater at the Yale Drama School. And this book is beautiful. And he states that as members of humanity, we have one giant collective problem to solve, and that is that we're going to die one day, right? And the other thing is that we have this skill of being self-aware, right? Which makes that problem worse, right? Because being self-aware, we can practice abstract thinking, we can know how things would be, but we will also know that maybe we will never ever get there, right? So we have this ability to conceive of perfection, right? Success and order. And we also know that most of those things will never happen, right? So we're constrained by life's limitations. Therefore, perfection is kind of this myth, right? It's a reference point. We can either take this very badly as humans and shake our fists and fight against the gods and rile and right. And we call this in theater, we call this tragedy, right? But comedy is where we look at our situation and we just fall and laugh about it, right? We just laugh about it. So that's where comedy comes in. So hopefully I'm making the case for you that play is one of these very beginnings of how we have empathy for people, right? And it's very serious business. This is a quote from Plato, I think. You never know where quotes are attributed these days. But you can learn more about a person in an hour of play than you can learn in a year of conversation, right? The other thing that comes in when we talk about perfection being a myth, right, as we've claimed, and that it's merely sort of a reference point for us, that it doesn't really exist. So the only alternative is to share our flaws and our weaknesses, which is we need to be vulnerable, right? We need to be vulnerable with one another. So this is another big, state for us before we get into talking about improv and its nuances. This is another big thing. So we, as a comedian, I can tell you that we rarely laugh at perfection. We don't relate to it being imperfect ourselves. What we laugh at is authenticity. And we laugh at recognizing ourselves in others. And this is a big piece of where vulnerability comes in because, well, I guess I'll start here. I'm fond of saying that our intelligence collectively is limited, right? It's very limited. But our stupidity is a vastly renewable resource, right? We can rely on it for days and days on end, right? And we might consider it, you know, a bit of a weakness, but right, right. But this can serve to our point of being vulnerable, which is showcasing where we are imperfect, showcasing where we are flawed. To be vulnerable means to be woundable, right? So I think it's something to think about when we, you know, we're sort of willing to share those aspects of ourselves with other people. And we have to create spaces where we're willing to share those things, and we're willing to step out into the open and really say who we are. And to be authentic in sharing your vulnerability means to draw from your lived experience and to speak from the things that you have experienced as a human being, and create from that place, and share your vulnerability in the things that you do and in the things that you make. So from this, we learn that sharing, we don't have to put up this mask of perfection to everybody, and that sharing who we are, we learn that we are enough. People are endlessly fascinated by people, right? And when we can truly see you in all of your flaws and all of your humanity, whether that's on stage or just in your life in other capacities, we recognize ourselves as well in that shared humanity. So people have to feel safe in order to share themselves, as I was saying, and improv offers a context where you can show up and you can make mistakes and you will still be supported. I'm seeing Marjorie here, who's taken some classes with me at Kickstand, so it's great to see you today. So yeah, I just wanted to share. Oh yes, this is a great quote by Madeleine L'Engle, who's an author. Yeah, to be alive is to be vulnerable, right? This is I'm not much for tarot, so anybody who knows tarot I could stand corrected in this moment, but we often depict the fool here in a very precarious situation, right? With a foot sort of akimbo and dangling over the edge of a cliff, right? So when we show up, with our flaws and being vulnerable, we recognize that there's a bit of imbalance in that, and all comedy comes from imbalance, right? To the slapstick clowns, falling over and slipping on a banana peel, to other sorts of imbalances of too much of a big reaction to something, right? Or too much energy in a certain situation. These are all like ripe for comedy. But the fool kind of, and the artist is called to, in a way, drink tea on the precipice, right? And show people that we must live fully, even in this very precarious situation, and to remind people that death is a part of our experience, right? This is why the fool is always depicted on the cliff, and it's also the fool who is willing to step out there and be silly, for everyone to sort of acknowledge their collective humanity. So we're going to practice something of vulnerability right now, and I promise it will be a very low lift. And I want the folks that are on Zoom to play along as well. So what I would like you to do is turn to your neighbor and share something about yourself that you think it might be surprising for someone to learn. And then they are just going to hear that, and then they're going to respond by sharing some aspect of themselves with you. And then if you're watching on Zoom, you can just type something in the chat and share something about yourself in the chat that you think it would be surprising for someone to know. So just take that moment. Maybe someone you don't know too well here in the meeting. Turn to somebody and just share something you might like to share about yourself. I feel the skin crawling. I feel people getting uncomfortable, but we got this. Let's come on back to, Let's come on back to,
All right, settle down, everyone. Settle down. Enough sharing. Enough sharing.
very good.
Right.
Yeah, let's come on back to the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to share? Very good. I love the enthusiasm. I love it. Very good. Let's focus up back. Is there anyone who would like to share what they shared with their neighbor with the room? Is there anyone who'd like to? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Leslie, and he raised rats, but he loved them. He loved these animals and took them for walks. And you even got them on your grandmother's shoulder. That was, and they got to be so well loved and so well fed. They got to each be a pound, so they were big.
That's great. So yes, very good. Awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing with your neighbor. So now we're going to get into, now that we've set the stage about the value of play and the value of being a little open and vulnerable, not just a little, being vulnerable, being open, we enter more precisely the world of improv as a practice in empathy. So the first thing that an improviser is called to do is to notice everything, right? So when you're really paying attention, everything's your teacher, right? And when you improvise, you really need to notice all the small things that are happening, because they're each a clue as to what the scene that you're creating in the moment might be about, right? So a good improviser, even at the very beginning of a show, will kind of notice the tone and temperature of an audience, right, before they take the stage. They'll notice when they have to host the show, whether they've got to bring the energy up in the room, right, or whether they've got to sort of mitigate it in another way. And then when they step out, usually most improv is asking for a suggestion to be inspired for your show. They have to notice what thoughts and associations come to their mind when they get that suggestion. And they have to notice what feelings come to their mind when they get that suggestion. And they're going to use those thoughts, associations, feelings as the source material for all the scenes that they create going forward. People in the audience might not see the connection, but the improviser is making them. And it starts with noticing what's going on with you when you first hear that suggestion. And then once a scene begins, you have to notice what your scene partner is bringing into the space when they are doing a scene with you. You have to read everything about what's going on, right? So what sort of attitude do they have in this scene? Is there an emotion playing across their face? How are they relating to me? Who might I be to that person in this fictional scene that we're creating? Did they start doing something that makes it look like they're fishing? Or did they start doing something that makes it look like they're working in an office? Because I want to join them in that world. So it starts with a lot of observation, right? You really, really have to pay attention. And then when, during the scene, not just at the start of the scene, you have to both notice what's happening with you, what's happening with your scene partner, and what's happening with the audience. So if the audience is responding and laughing out loud to something that you did, you want to take note of that so that you can do it again, right? A lot of improv is do something, do it bigger, and then do it again, right? In a way that stays surprising, feels both surprising and inevitable for the audience, right? So this is something that you learn to do. And I think we can clearly connect this to empathy. If I'm looking at your face and I am seeing what's happening there, I need to use that information in order to respond, right? And an empathetic response will be one of support, which improvisers are always doing. This is Del Closey's an improv teacher. He was very like in the 70s, very woo-woo about some of the improv stuff. There was sort of this cloud of mystical improv gods that you pulled your scene down from. Del, there's a lot of stories about Del. Some of them are horrible, but overall, he's a creative genius. And this is a quote from him: "The truth is funny. Honesty, discovery, observation, which is my key word for the moment, and reaction is better than to contrive invention." Right? The truth feels funny to us. There's a book called Truth and Comedy. It's a great book. So now we're going to practice a little bit of observation. And the folks at home on Zoom can do this as well. And this will also be a very low lift, perhaps even lighter lift than the earlier one. I just want you to look around this room, and I want you to land on something in the space. And I want you to look at it as if you're looking at it again for the very first time, and see if there's something that you notice about it that you either previously never noticed or took for granted, or just something that stands out to you that you just never thought to look at that before. So yeah, what is something that you see in the room that you want to make a new investigation of? And if you're at home on Zoom, you can do the same thing. Look around your space, land on an object, and really look at it again for the first time. And in a moment, I'll ask some of you where your eyes landed and what you noticed for the first time about that object. Yeah, or about that thing. Nice. And it doesn't just have to be the physical thing. It could be a sound that you notice. It could be a scent that you notice. Hopefully everybody showered today. But if not, that's okay. Great. Does anybody want to share about a thing that they saw again for the first time? Anybody? This room. I don't know how familiar you are with this room if you come here most Sundays. Yeah. Did anybody notice anything that stood out to them? Yeah, back here.
It's like there's something like 12 sprinklers in here.
Wow. Oh my goodness, are we in trouble? 12 sprinklers. Yeah. So this may be this, yeah.
Certain angles, they look palm tree lantern.
Oh yeah.
And others, it's just a palm tree or what, you know.
I love it. Yeah. The way that the clouds make shapes when you look at that. That's a more fun world, right?
Give them some little grass skirts.
Yeah, little grass skirts. I love it. Anybody else see something again for the first time? Yeah.
I think this logo, which I must have looked at 1,000 times.
Yeah.
One arm is higher than that. I think that people just volunteering to show their expertise.
Yes. Doing a weird jumping jack. Nice. Very fun. Yes, over here.
I noticed that there's a broken window that isn't broken.
Oh, yeah. This window is broken, but then we cannot see any evidence to that case. I think there's a whole Instagram on like signs that people do. The biggest sign that you see is like, don't tap your card here, or like insert your card. Everyone has written like a little sign for how to interact with their payment machine wherever they are. And it leaves everybody confused because every single one of those things is different. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Music, how worn the guitar is, and thought about how often it's been played and how much it would flow.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's poetic. Welcome to a more poetic like way of seeing the world, and a world that invokes a lot of thoughts, feelings, and associations, right? And where your mind goes and what you see is unique to you and the way that you interpret it. Yeah, we can be like inviting that stuff in more. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, the next step in improvisation, we just did this, I should have had it up, is accepting and building. Many people are already aware of this tenet of improv. If you've heard yes and, you've heard of this. And it's a really key component that makes improv work, This is a quote by Keith Johnstone. There are people who prefer to say yes, and there are people who prefer to say no. Those who say yes are rewarded by the adventures they have, and those who say no are rewarded by the safety they attain. Right? Yeah. So both are great options. Saying yes, saying no. The improv practice is to say yes. Clearly, we can't say yes to everything in our lives, but there's always an aspect of yes that we can keep. So I just want to talk about this a little bit more. So in a very basic sense, oh wait, don't look at that yet. Okay, great. In a very basic sense, when our silly ideas and proposals are supported and built upon by someone else, we feel like we can show up as ourselves. It allows us to be more vulnerable, and it allows us to be valued and feel value in a way that is not connected to our productivity, which I think is really key right now, right? You are valuable just because of who you are. And your silly ideas and your creativity is something that's worth exploring and spending time with. So in improv, you learn to accept another person's proposal without immediately judging it. So the fun that you can have in improv is always on the other side of the yes, right? So once you say yes, then you get access to the fun of that idea and that person's creativity that you're there to support. It can take courage, right? And even a small degree of faith, because you have no idea what saying yes to that idea, where it could lead, right? You're not certain where it's going. Improv students say that to me all the time. Oh, I don't know. I just didn't know where the scene was going, right? And I say, welcome to improv, right? None of us know where it's going, but we know that we're doing it together, which is the really beautiful thing about this silly art form. And so improvisers have this practice of, before, when they go out on stage together, they always say to one another, I got your back. And this is in improv communities all around the world. It was in Philly, even in Philly, right? They say this. I went to the French Reunion Islands, humble brag, to do an improv show. Never met these people, but they all are saying, I got your back, I got your back. And what that means is, no matter what happens out there, I'm going to do my best to make you look good. And we're going to make each other look good in this experience. So it's very much focused on support, which is the real agreement and building on one another. So yeah, the focus just becomes a little bit bigger than yourself when you realize there's another person in this with you, and you've got to take care of them. So I'm slowly building this case for improv being a practice in empathy. Yeah. So we're going to practice this agree and build. So you're going to turn perhaps to a different neighbor than the one you did before. I just want you to make a statement about anything at all. So you could say, today is Sunday, or you can say, I enjoyed a coffee this morning, right? Anything at all. The statement itself does not have to be interesting, clever, or funny. Tap into your own stupidity. Remember, that's the renewable resource here. And then the other person is going to respond starting with yes, and then they're going to add a feeling about that, or a detail, or a consequence, or they're going to add something from their perspective that's inspired by your statement. So essentially just say, oh, you had coffee. Yes. And I had eggs and bacon, right? It doesn't really matter what the response is. It's just that you're hearing them, you're agreeing with them, and then you're adding your own information. Any questions about that? Nice. Let's just practice that. Yes. Yes, repeat means, thank you for this question. Repeat means now you make another statement and then they will yes and it. Thank you. Thank you. So then they start with a statement, you yes and it, then you make a statement and they will yes and that. And you can do this in the chat if you are watching on Zoom. Right. All right, let's wrap up that thought and see if we can come on back. Nice. I want to hear from someone in the meeting about what the exchange was. So yeah, does anyone want to share how this conversation went? Yeah.
Anybody want to share out what they talked about with their friend?
Breakfast.
Yeah, nice. This is great. Great. Anything stand out about breakfast to you?
Well, depends on, some people like to eat it later in the day, and some of us are trying to watch our diets. Of course,
Yes.
I confess that I had a bit too much cholesterol over yesterday because of 4th of July celebration.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing your humanity with us. I love it. Yeah. Yes, and it's just the way that improv works,
Right? If we get out there and we start a scene and I say, we're in the Home Depot, and you say, no, we're not. The scene is now a debate about where we are, right? If I say we're in the Home Depot and you just say yes. Well, now, we got to pull teeth to make this scene happen. Right? But if we say yes, and we really need to get that faucet before your mother-in-law comes over, or my mother-in-law comes over, right? Now we have something that we have thoughts, feelings, we have relationship, we have a scene that we can build, right? And so we're going to talk about this being curious, right? And I'm talking here about curiosity as a value that we place higher than judgment, right? Curiosity over judgment. And if we're curious about what this drawing is, it's a kid's drawing of a duck, right? And if a kid hands you a drawing like this, right, you might ask them, tell me about this. Right? And you could discover any number of things. That's my teacher at school. That's you, right? Whatever. But you want to be curious about it, right? And then secondarily, you don't want to judge it. Well, that doesn't look like a duck, right? So we want to be curious. Oh boy, I hope I don't get too emotional talking about this. This is a picture of me and my grandmother, who is no longer with us. I love her very much. She had dementia. And one of the things that was difficult about that is there was just, sometimes it was difficult to navigate conversations because she wasn't recalling things we recognized as being real. And she would often accuse my mother, who's the primary caretaker, I want to be clear, for my grandmother, of stealing from her and all of these things that you really, with every ounce of your being, want to fight against and defend. But one of the conversations that I had with my mom is, let's just be curious, right? And follow up. Oh, tell me about Mary, right? And we don't know who Mary is. Mary is potentially just, something my grandmother's talking about. We don't know where it's coming from. And then she just gets a chance to talk about, oh, I stole from you. Tell me how much money I stole so that I can, replace it. Or where did you, following up, not in order to test the memory or the reality, but just to say yes to the relationship and to keep connection and to keep conversational skills going. So it's not about this is right, this is wrong, wanting to defend, wanting to judge, wanting to shut it down and saying that's not correct, right? So this is research that has been done a lot, where if you approach conversations with people who, and I am by no means a doctor or an expert in this, so take everything with a grain of salt. If you approach these conversations with more curiosity and with a baseline of agreement, positivity, there's a lot to gain, even in those conversations. So again, if you judge something, you're sort of evaluating it, you're shutting it down, and you can't create and evaluate at the same time. When one process starts, the other stops. And if we are sitting in judgment, it means that we're over and above and against, right? We're not with someone. And the goal is to improvise with you, not at you, not in spite of you, right? The goal is to be with you. And that takes a lot of curiosity because I cannot read your mind. I want to validate your creative proposals to the scene and support them. So yeah, this is a key thing about curiosity. It is really a shift in your mindset, and curiosity, by contrast, it seeks to understand, right, rather than and open the door to collaboration rather than to shut it down or assume you already know what it is. So I think this is the main value of curiosity. The next thing that we want to be as improvisers, oh, look at little me. God, that was so many years ago. Okay, is to adapt, right? You want to be adaptable. You want to be flexible. This is part of where that play comes back in. So adaptability is, it's not always about changing who you are. It's about expanding what you can become, right? You want to adapt. Improv is the practice of holding your ideas lightly and being willing to adjust, right? Without giving up your presence and your integrity, obviously. If you're trying to control a situation and keep it rigid, right? Other people's needs often take a back seat in that instance. Improvisers practice remaining open throughout a scene, throughout a show, and being adaptable so that they continually can stay connected creatively with their creative partners in that process, right? We think, okay, if this is now true, what else is true? How can we build out the reality of this world? And it allows you to be flexible when working with others, which is, I think, a real skill that you need with improv. Yes, improv, this is something that we do together. It is a team sport. And the greatness of it is that it asks you to change authorship for partnership, right? I'm not the sole contributor to this creative experience. I am one contributor. And your ideas are as valued in this space, and your humanity is as valued in this space as mine are. Now, we're aiming this at a silly outcome, but improvisers all over the world do dramatic improvisation. There's other forms of improvisation with music and with painting and with writing. So there's a lot of media where you can take these values of improv and apply them. And not to scare you too much, but you've been improvising your entire life. This is all made up. Everything we do, every moment is not a scripted moment. There's no one thing that is supposed to happen, right? So what we have is we really have each other, right? And that takes empathy. Yeah, like I said, improvisers do this to make the jokes, to get into the yucks. But there's a lot of core values and practices in improvisation that I believe lead to empathy. And I cannot think of a problem that empathy cannot help solve. If you do, let me know. And yeah, I think that's where I'll conclude this portion of the speech. Thank you for listening to me. Let's give each other a round of applause. And I suppose now I'll open the floor to any questions that people have.
Yep, thank you so much, Kristen. I think you've given us all a new appreciation of improv. I mean, starting off with the value of play in life, how it can counter the myth of perfection, how it can serve as a leveler vis-a-vis coming to terms with our own fatality, and then how improv connects to authenticity, sharing vulnerability, acknowledging our collective humanity, the skills of awareness and curiosity, and of course, how it all connects with empathy. So really, really appreciate it. It is now turned to the Q&A session. So for those at Friendly House who have questions for Kristen, please raise your hand. You'll be presented with a number and you can ask your question when it's your turn. For those on Zoom who have questions, please type your name into the chat. When I call your name, you can unmute your microphone and ask your question. Now, undoubtedly, many of you will have questions for Kristen. So seeing as it is a first Sunday Funday session, to incentivize you from giving a lengthy statement before asking your question, there will be a special prize awarded at the end of the session to the individual who asked their question the most effective and efficient way. All right, let's just turn to question 1 at Friendly House. Go ahead.
I've learned in my past that improv can help you out of a dangerous situation.
Yes.
I had a housemate who turned out to be an alcoholic and a meth head.
Oh,
And he'll get very aggressive, accuse me of saying things that were really bad or doing something to him. And I had to keep improvising, kept asking him, well, what exactly did I say? Things like that. So can you imagine anybody in your classes having to deal with stuff like that, and maybe improv can help them at least avoid getting beat up?
Agreement often knocks the wind out of the sails of someone who is being somewhat aggressive, right? But you're a liar and you showed up. Yep, yeah. Oh, yeah, I can see you're really, what can you agree with, right? You don't necessarily have to agree with the accusations or things like that. Yeah, I can see that you're really upset, right? Yes, I can see that there's something that's bothering you, right? It's a starting place for the conversation. So I don't pretend to have all the answers, but yeah, I do think improv leads to that flexibility and that resilience in those moments where you reinterpret the situation and it can benefit you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he fortunately physical with me, and I was able to defuse his anger somewhat.
I'm so glad that you.
That you didn't have any physical exchanges, and yeah, oh man, people are what's the saying? Hell is other people. Yeah. So yeah, I think in those relationships, and then you just get curious about it, right? Just be like, why is this aggression showing up? You don't make that space for everybody in your life, but maybe you can make it for someone that you're close to and interested in repairing that relationship. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I was helpful, but thanks. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take our first question on Zoom. It comes from Kurt Mackey. The question is, how do you deal with tough rooms, non-responsive audiences?
Oh, yeah. Definitely have been there. Sometimes you're doing a show and like nobody wanted you to do this show. I think it really starts with reading the room. I think my biggest advice for people who are hosting an improv show, sometimes they come in like with this super high energy and they're not matching the energy of the room. So if the room is really quiet, right? And they come in, hey, everybody, we're going to improv for you tonight. Right? They are so distant from where the audience is energy-wise that there's the disconnect seems more obvious. So if you have a quiet room, you come in and say, hello, everyone. We're going to do an improv show for you tonight. And then you start working the energy up in the room. Are we excited about that? Right? And you start raising the level of energy in the room incrementally. And sometimes that's a way to get people who were maybe not expecting what you were doing or not enthused about it a little more on your side. So it's about reading the room, I think. Yeah. Tough rooms are all over. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, let's go to question number 2 at the Friendly House.
Do you train school teachers in this fantastic information? Now a comment.
Ooh. You're getting those points, John Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
The late Charlie Kirk and the current Elon Musk disparage empathy.
Yes.
And you were so right to say how powerful and wonderful it is.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that comment.
School teachers rely on this all the time. They are performing. I was a school teacher myself. I taught 5th grade drama. I taught 12th grade and 9th grade English in Philly, and I taught at the university level as well. And also, you just need to be adaptable because you had a plan, but that plan is not happening today. And that's because you need to adjust for the needs of your students in the moment, right? There are whole school systems sort of set around following the lead of the student as opposed to the rigid plan that teachers have in place, which I know most people who are very into the teaching can verify. They're very rarely sticking to that plan on a daily basis. So yes, teachers use it. They're often very skilled at it already. And yes, we have trained teachers to work in improvisation. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to question number 3 at the Friendly House.
Great.
Yeah, how can improv help with the legislative?
Yeah. Well, I think improv also starts with
Listening. Right? If you want to be a better improviser, you have to be a really good listener because, again, everything you hear is a clue to what is happening. And, the legislators are there to represent their constituents, and they need to listen to what is happening in those communities that they represent. And then move that through a legislative process. Boy, I'm really talking out of my butt here because I don't really know what it is to be a politician, but you can definitely feel that there's a disconnect. And it seems like a lot of our legislators are listening to other people besides their constituents, right? Because they're following the money. At least that's the way it seems to me. Yeah. Lobbyists, yay. Lobbyists have the ear. We don't often. So how can it help? I think it really starts with listening and being willing to listen and being adaptable, which is really being open to change, change things that aren't working. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to question number 4.
Over here, so do you have any advice for somebody who's got a lot of social anxiety, who improv might be like their biggest nightmare after to talk just offhand about?
I love that.
Stuff?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think
Where people's number one fear is public speaking, and then death takes a second. Like that takes second place. Yes, I again, from a non-therapist or doctor's perspective, improv is about the practice of being present in the moment. And a lot of anxiety comes from future ideation of all the things that could go wrong. And so if you're able, depending on how severe your anxiety is, to do some of these exercises and warm-ups in class that help you really be present, I think you can start to experience some relief from anxiety. I would not say improv is therapy, but improv is therapeutic. Obviously, there's a degree to which people may not be ready to be in a room with others, but some of these tools really do help with anxiety, and a lot of people that show up in the improv classes are there to help work on their communication skills, their relating skills, and they don't have a goal of performing at all. Their goal is to meet fun people, be creative with people, and gain some tools for the way that they relate to others. Yeah.
Okay, question number 5 at the front.
Yeah.
How's your practice in improv shops changing with the prevalence of technology, AI, digital devices?
Yeah.
Like, are people really seeking it out? Is it difficult for them to focus? A little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think we're really positioned kind of well, like in a, from the outside, people are saying, oh, well, theater, people don't go to the theater anymore. I think people are going to start to want and crave real experiences with real people and know that it is generated in the moment. I've seen some improv forms back in the early days of AI where improvisers would improvise with AI, which is really fun. And improvisers had to get very creative when we were in the pandemic and doing shows and classes on Zoom and how to make lessons work when you're not in a room with other people. So yeah, I think improv is really well suited, but at the core of it, it's a very human to human experience. And I think that's going to end up, and I think comedy is also very important these days. It has the ability to speak truth to power and to create joy for people, and people live longer when they laugh. So it's really healthy to go to a comedy theater, unless you're doing it super late at night and then you're going out drinking afterwards. So probably not good for your health. But yeah, thanks for the question. I hope I offered some insight to that extent. Yeah.
Okay, question number 6.
Yeah.
I love that quote. Saying yes, you get the adventure. Saying no, you get the safety. It really honors both words.
Yeah.
How do you help people who are really stuck in the no, the safety? I want the safety.
Yeah.
How do you get them to move into the feeling more comfortable with the yes?
It's a big process.
Throughout an improv class, they may start to feel more and more safety as they develop rapport with the people that they're improvising with, knowing that they're going to be supported, even if they have a very silly idea. But one thing I recognize as a teacher is that the only bad improv is I suck, you suck, we suck. That's the only bad improv. So if you can start to gain confidence in the space, and we recognize that there's fear responses in people, and so they're a flight, right? They say no because they want to retreat. And so I give them challenges to make them show up a little more aggressively in the space, like interrupt your scene partner, or come in with a really high emotion and big energy, or play Shakespearean, because Shakespearean is a way to trick people into taking up more space, both verbally and physically, even if they don't have a high reference level for Shakespeare. So there are some challenges and tools that we can use to get both that person who's afraid and the person who's trying to over control and be over aggressive and tell you and bark orders in a scene to kind of let go, because that's also a fear response, right? Yeah, to them we say, you can only parrot back words that your improv partner uses, or you only get to say 3 words in this scene, right? Because they need to experience what it's like without having to white knuckle grip the scene and realize that, oh yeah, they're okay. They don't have to be in high control to have this feel free and easy. So yeah.
Okay, question number 7 at the front of the house.
Hi, I wanted to, I'm speaking to the fellow clown.
Oh, amazing.
I enjoyed your presentation very much, and I loved all of the ideas about improv and empathy. But what I want to know is, how does my propensity for huge physical movement, comedy, following people around, how does that help me?
Yeah. Yeah, there's different modes of clown.
Right. So there could be what's the bouffon, right? Which is from the French word to stuff, right? Where you get buffet from, as well as the big goofy hair bouffon, right? And the bouffon is a satirist or a critic of other people, and it's a very much needed thing, right? Comedy needs to ridicule things from time to time and show how ridiculous it is. But the clown just has a need to be seen, right? And so it's a big look at me energy, which, I'm a middle child, so I get it. This is what I do, so I get it. And that look at me is an invitation to see me in all my flaws. And in clown, sometimes we say, you better play that thing that you are before it starts to play you, right? So if you are too loud, or if you're too goofy, or if you're a show off, make that the centerpiece of how you clown and how you show up in the world. And then you'll be able to express instead of repress or get depressed by those very human flaws and needs. So I think any form of expression is always helpful to both the actor, the performer, and also the witnesses of that thing, because they say, me too, right? And I recognize that in myself. So the clown it's an invitation. an invitation to play with all of the ways in which we're very stupid and beautiful as human beings. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to question number 8 at the.
Yes.
Hi there, thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
And maybe you've answered this in various ways, but I have to get more translations.
Sure.
I told that a friend that I want to make a friend, but they're so domineering. And they have too much to say. They don't know when to stop. And so the more I agree or try to do the yes person, the worse it is.
Yes,
Do you have any tricks?
Good question. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you have to, at some point, you do have to take care of yourself. Right? We say put your own mask on before putting the mask on of the small child next to you or the plane. So, at a certain point, if this person's just more interested in what they have to say and who they are, right? You have to go sort of where you're valued. But sometimes it's really great to just, clearly this person needs an ear for everything. Yeah, I don't want to chain you to misery, but I think just allowing this person to express themselves, and if the more silent you are, like a lot of times leaving that space, people do sometimes get the hint. For me personally, yeah, I've met people in my life who are just very interested in their own thing, and I don't hang on to that relationship for very long. I move elsewhere, where I feel like there's mutual recognition and respect. Now that seems harsh, but we've got one beautiful life, and it's not about being rude to that person. And then if there's a way to repair the relationship, I think being very direct and honest with, like, I'd love to share a little bit more of my thoughts and who I am with you, but it seems difficult to do that. Yeah. I thank you for the question. I'm afraid I don't have the perfect answer for that. We do a lot of improv scenes where somebody monologues and the other person is quiet. I'll tell you who the audience laughs at more: the quiet person. Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Some fantastic questions, and the judges have their work cut out for them. But before that, let's give a big round of applause once again to Kristen. And I am pleased to announce that the winner of the prize for the most effective and efficient question during HGP's first Sunday session in July 2026 is, he's not in the room at the moment, Jeff Strang. Come on up and collect your prize. And feel free to tell us what it is you've won.
Okay, congratulations on winning the prize for the most effective and efficient question. The following additional verse to John Lennon's song Imagine has been written in honor of your accomplishment. Additional verse. Imagine no preambles. Oh, where are we? Imagine no preambles. It's easy if you try. No backstory above us. No context piled high. Imagine all the people just asking what they need. You may say I'm a dreamer, but the clock ticks, so please skip the scene-setting saga and ask with expertise.
Hold your breath. Make a wish. Count to 3. Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. It'll begin with a spin, traveling in a world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Wanna change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with your imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. And if you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Wanna change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with your imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be.
But I think it fits really well with the idea of improv. Now, you might have a person like this in your life, family, a friend, maybe it's you, 4 other people, or maybe it's just that humanist sitting next to you that you shared your breakfast stories with. But you know what? Your nonsense, it just makes sense. And that's the way I like it.
Till we cry in the grandstand, an unspoken joke we all understand. Taking turns making punchlines with our eyes, taking turns playing chess for the group tonight. No one knows me better. We go together like birds of a feather, thick as thieves, and we all know why. Life is better with you by my side. 'Cause to me, your nonsense makes sense. Speaking my language when life gets hectic. You're all that I need on late nights and hard times. Love that your weirdness matches mine. I always find just makes sense to me. Just makes sense to me. People tell me you're a strange bird, but all my favorite folks in the world are a little absurd. Everybody's trying to fit in, but I'm loving every moment of us being different. 'Cause to me, your nonsense makes sense. Speaking my language when life gets hectic. You're all that I need on late nights and hard times. Love that your weirdness matches mine. I always find just makes sense to me. Just makes sense to me. Your nonsense just makes sense to me.
Living on the road, my friend, was gonna make you free and clean. Now you wear your skin like iron, your breath's as hard as kerosene. Weren't your mama's only boy, but her favorite one, it seems. She began to cry when you said goodbye and slipped into your dreams. We're in the wrong tempo. Pancho was a bandit boy. His horse was fast as polished steel. He wore his gun outside his pants for all the honest world to feel. Pancho needed his match, you know, in the desert down in Mexico, and nobody heard his dying words. Ah, but that's the way it goes. All the federales say could have had him any day, only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Lefty can't sing the blues all night long like he used to. The dust that Pancho bit down south ended up in Lefty's mouth. The day they laid poor Pancho low, Lefty split for Ohio, and where he got the bread to go, there ain't nobody knows. All the federales say could have had him any day, only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Poets tell how Pancho fell. Lefty's living in a cheap hotel. The desert's quiet, Cleveland's cold, and so the story ends, we're told. Pancho needs your prayers, it's true, but save a few for Lefty too. He only did what he had to do, and now he's growing old. All the federales say could have had him any day, only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. A few great federales say could have had him any day, only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose.
This has a refrain, so I'm glad you didn't say the other was better. Thank you very much. Very complimentary. So, you guys get to participate. So sing, tarry all day, sing autumn to May. That's Once I had a little dog, his color it was brown. I taught him for to whistle, to sing and dance and run. His legs, they were 14 yards long, ears so very wide. Around the world in half a day, upon him I could ride. Sing, tarry all day, sing, autumn to May. And once I had a little frog, he wore a vest of red. He'd lean upon a silver cane, a top hat on his head. He'd sing of far-off places, of things to see and do, and of all the kings and queens he'd met while sailing in a shoe. Sing, tarry all day, sing, autumn to May. And once I had a flock of sheep, they grazed upon a feather. I kept them in a music box from wind and rainy weather. And every day the sun would shine, they'd run all through the town and bring me back some golden rings and candy by the pound. Sing, tarry all day, sing, autumn to May. And once I had a little dove, she was so very frail. She sat upon an oyster shell and hatched me out a snail. The snail it turned into a bird, the bird to butterfly. And he who tells a bigger tale will have to tell a lie. Sing, tarry all day, sing, autumn to May. One more time. Sing, tarry all day, sing, autumn to May. And I know it's not July the 4th, but one time a year I can't wear it out in my lifetime, so get more of it. This is a real participation song when we get to the end, so. Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for the train, feeling about as faded as my jeans. Bobby flagged the diesel down just before it rained. We took it all the way to New Orleans. Well, I took my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana and was blowing sad while Bobby sang the blues. With the windshield wipers flapping time and Bobby clapping hands, we finally sung up every song that the driver knew. Freedom, just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing ain't worth nothing when it's free. Yes, but feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and Bobby McGee. From the coal mines of Kentucky to the California sun, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul. Standing right beside me, Lord, till everything's done. Each night she kept me from the cold. And somewhere near Salinas, Lord, I let her slip away. Searching for that home I hope she found. But I'd give all my tomorrows for a single yesterday, holding Bobby's body close to mine. Freedom, just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing ain't worth nothing when it's free. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and Bobby McGee. And now the La-Las. La 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 la. Me and Bobby McGee. La 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 la. La 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 la. Me and Bobby McGee. La 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 la. La 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 la. Bobby McGee. La 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 la. La 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 la. Me and Bobby McGee. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Me and Bobby McGee. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Me and Bobby McGee. He's got one now.
Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Yes, you're lovely, with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you and the way you look tonight. With each word, tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart. And that laugh wrinkles your nose, it touches my foolish heart. Lovely, never ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. tickles your nose. It touches my foolish heart. Lovely, never ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Just the way you look tonight.
Hit it.
Desmond has a barrow in the marketplace. Molly is a singer with a band. Desmond says to Molly, girl, I like your face. Molly sings as he takes her by the hand. Everybody, oh-blah-dee, oh-blah-da, life goes on. La-la, how the life goes on. Oh-blah-dee, oh-blah-da, life goes on. La-la, how the life goes on. Desmond takes a trolley to the jeweler's store, buys a 20-carat golden ring, takes it back to Molly waiting at the door, and as he gives it to her, she begins to sing. Blah-dee, blah-da, life goes on. La-la, how the life goes on. Blah-dee, blah-da, life goes on. La-la, how the life goes on. In a couple of years, they built a home, sweet home, with a couple of kids running in the yard of Desmond and Molly Jones. Happy ever after in the marketplace. Desmond lets the children lend a hand. Molly stays at home and does a pretty face. In the evening she's the singer with the band. Wah-blah-dee, wah-blah-da, life goes on. La-la, how the life goes on. Oh-blah-dee, oh-blah-da, life goes on. La-la, how the life goes on. And in a couple of years they have built a home, sweet home, with a couple of kids running in the yard of Desmond and Molly Jones. Hey, happy ever after in the marketplace. Molly lets the children lend a hand. Desmond stays at home and does a pretty face. In the evening she's the singer with the band.